And now that her husband, Barry Morphew, has been arrested again, prosecutors have more clues to work with this time, since they have an autopsy.
The grand jury has indicted Barry Morphew on the single count of murder in the first degree.
District Attorney Ann Kelly re-sparking the efforts for justice for Suzanne Morphew, who disappeared Mother's Day in 2020 near Salida.
Spencer, investigators found Morphew almost by chance, they say.
That's right. They told us they weren't even actually looking for Suzanne when they found her body out there. They were looking for something completely different. But results from the El Paso County Coroner's Office did come back positive today. They said that it is Suzanne's body. Now, I also confirmed with the coroner's office that it was dental records. They were able to match her identity and confirm that identity.
CBI says Morphew's death is still undetermined, but did say these drugs you see on your screen were involved. The National Institute of Health explains the first is a synthetic opioid painkiller, and the second is a sedative commonly used as a tranquilizer for pigs and elephants. The FDA says the last is a sedative that can decrease an animal's heart rate and is commonly used by veterinarians.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't breathe. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science. So in one of those clips you may have heard them say death by undetermined means. Now, one of the first obvious issues with the scenario the cops were presented with was that the bicycle crash simply didn't add up. For three reasons. Firstly, there were no scratches on the bicycle itself, or in the words of the autopsy report, no significant damage was found on the bicycle, which reinforces the notion that there was no bike ride that day and that the bicycle was a staged misdirection. Secondly, there were no skid marks or tire tracks of the bicycle in the dirt directly above where the bike went off the road. For that matter, there's almost seemed to be no dirt on the bicycle itself. Finally, Suzanne left her Camelback in her vehicle. That's a kind of water bottle that you sort of wear on your back and you fill with water. That was actually in her vehicle. So she evidently got up early to go for a bicycle ride without taking a water bottle with her. Very unlikely. In this analysis, we'll re-examine the evidence as found in the autopsy report, including an important aspect that has been withheld from the autopsy report. But before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. By the way, thank you to everyone who has subscribed, the recent subscribers, and the many of you have subscribed over the years. Just a big thank you to all of you. If you're finding this analysis worthwhile, please do hit the thanks button and let's get started.
We want to heal. We feel like we haven't been able to heal these past 2 years.
The family says Suzanne left her Colorado home for a bike ride, but never returned.
I just love my girls, and I love my wife, and I just want her to be found.
Well, of course, after she was found, things didn't really look very good for Barry Morphew. But one of the real mysteries in this case is to do with the autopsy, that they found only a partial skeleton. Did you know that an incomplete skeleton was found, and what's more, it wasn't incomplete because of animal predation or decomposition. It appears the feet are somewhere else, certainly not in the same area of San Luis where the other remains were found. Now, the first thought I had when I read that was this. We know Barry had a work site right next to the river at the time of Suzanne's disappearance, and it made me wonder whether Suzanne's feet had been set into a block of concrete and she was placed into water, and that's why they were missing today. Remember, Scott Peterson did something similar. He made concrete anchors and dropped his wife in the bay, and she wasn't found for 3 months. But if you remember, this site was one of the first areas subjected to a pretty intense search, a thorough search by investigators, a search that apparently included the water as well. Whatever the answer to that question, the autopsy also seemed to find no indications of perimortem trauma, which is to say no signs of animal teeth degrading the remains. Which brings up this whole idea that her remains were moved from one place to another. Now, we do know that hunters know how to do what is known as field care or field dressing of animal carcasses. Now, I've been looking everywhere for the photo, I'm not sure if you've seen it, of Barry Morphew. I think he's skinning a black bear over a rock. Do you remember seeing that photo? Or try finding it today. It's not very easy. Anyway, Barry Morphew actually has a photo of himself apparently doing this with a bear skin over a large rock. Field dressing also aids hunters in transporting hunted game by lightening the weight of the carcass. Now, we also know that in Indiana, Barry Morphew was a deer farmer, and he used this BAM tranquilizer cocktail to tranquilize deer. Why? So that he could saw off their antlers. The whole idea was to sedate them, remove their antlers, and then they would sort of come to again and live to grow antlers another day, kind of thing, right? So, if he was like other hunters, he would likely have tried to wash, bleach, and sell the antlers. Of course, time in the sun can do something similar. The question is, this whole process, washing, bleaching of the antlers, is there an analogy to that in the bones that were found in the San Luis Valley? Also interesting in the autopsy report are other items found in the area of the gravesite. Clothing was also found. Let's have a look at an extract from the autopsy report. 7 brown paper bags remain in the custody of CBI and contain a pale pattern balaclava, a pink and light color leather work glove, a light color partial padded bra, a ripped dark blue-gray hooded sweatshirt labeled Crested Butt. There's a picture of Suzanne wearing that hoodie, a torn green Nike tank top, Yeti shorts, and a fabric fragment. Now, how many of these items sound like bicycle clothing? If she went for a bicycle ride, why isn't she wearing any cycling clothing? Interestingly, they also found one weathered bullet fragment, and so the question is that related to this case? Now, I must say, in terms of this grey hooded sweatshirt with the words Crested Butt on it, I think you guys say Butte, I'd always imagined that the incident started when Suzanne was caught texting Jeff Libler, basically wearing a bathing suit, as you see in this image. Because the two exchanged dozens of texts and then suddenly Suzanne stopped texting. They started that day with this photo, that selfie, and Suzanne texted the words, "Guess who is alone again," right? Now, it's possible the grey object she's lying on is a towel, or else it's what she was wearing, this grey hoodie, and what she took off when she lay down. What do you guys think? Clearly, that shirt, though, isn't a cycling shirt, and neither are the shorts found. So although we've solved some of the mysteries surrounding what has happened to Suzanne, there are certainly questions that remain. How exactly did this homicide occur? What happened to some of the bones as well? Where are they? Where are her shoes? So I'm not going to take it further than that. In the next episode, we'll deal with Barry's chipmunk alibi, a world first, and examine whether this is actually the weakest link in this case or not. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.